So I'm joined by Stephen Harran, the Operations Director at RBH Hospitality Management. Thank you for joining me, Stephen.
Pleasure.
Your business has been adapting quite a bit over the last couple of years, as is any hospitality business. But because you work with a lot of owner properties, what are the ways that you've had to adapt your business model, or the ways that you service the businesses and customers that you work with today?
Ryan, that's a really good question, and it changes every single day. And even this week, it's changing with the changes in interest rates that we're seeing across the country at the moment. We have to be flexible. We have to be adept at changing everything that we can. So if I look at this minute in time, we have owners that have survived COVID, which has been fantastic. They've been able to do that, and we've helped them along that way. We are seeing now a period where we've come out of actually a very good summer in most cases, but now the pressures that all our owners are finding is that the cost base is rising greatly, but also they've taken CBILS loans to help them through the COVID. They've got interest rate payments coming up, and these interest rate payments are growing massively. And some owners are facing £200,000-300,000 additional interest payments, and that's really difficult. So we're modelling cash flows, we're modelling different ways of operating their hotels, and just seeing how we can make the most of everything they've got, and how we can squeeze every penny out of the asset for them in order for them to survive, in honesty, but also to give them a position where they can grow in the future.
I mean, we were built on a lot of incredible predictability before the pandemic, and that all threw everything in the air. And obviously, the way that the market's coming back and the new challenges that we have, you've identified that there are so many different other factors that you're looking at. So it sounds like your scope is considerably broadened, and therefore, as well, when you look at your portfolio mix, you must be working across a great range of different types of property. How are you looking at sort of adapting the way, or the different types of partners and suppliers that you work with, and how is it important that suppliers understand the sort of businesses that you work with and what you need to deliver for your customers?
Our portfolio is huge, and as you say, we deal with small hotels, small independent hotels, which are owned by maybe a couple that they've inherited the hotel, and that's their pension pot. And we also deal with huge multinational investment companies, and the needs of those different types of hotels are very different. The needs of the owners are very different, and we have to be able to adapt to those. We're very lucky in that the way we split our portfolio is by owner group. So if you are an owner with a number of hotels, you'll deal with one person in RBH, and we'll be able to tailor everything that we do for them. In terms of our suppliers, we need flexibility in the same way we have to be flexible with our owners. We need flexibility from our suppliers as well. We all are trying to think of how we can save money, how we can do things. Our suppliers are doing that as well, but we need them to all come together and all feed those ideas together, so that we're getting the best of everything to present to our owners and give them a number of options to work with.
Now, as we move forward, I've been talking to a number of hoteliers about, where are they, how are they planning the next couple of years, and it's quite difficult because the way ahead is not necessarily clear. So you have to remain particularly agile. What are some of the key indicators that you're keeping a very close eye on to help you define how to respond to the market as things evolve?
I mean, the obvious one at the moment is energy costs. We work with an energy partner and broker, and they're modelling different things for us in the future. That works into our cash flows, and then we can use those cash flows to project for the owners for their banking covenants and everything else they need to achieve. Those are obvious things that we do. We work on various models on what we think is going to happen, and then we do a 10-15% better and 10-15% worse, and model like that. We're looking at the pound is particularly weak at the moment. What does that mean? Are we better off to have more foreign inbound coming in? How do we tackle foreign inbound? How do we attract them? How do we digitally advertise to those people? Or are we better off actually having more domestic people? As the pound is weaker, they may not be able to go abroad. So actually, maybe there'll be a stronger domestic market, like we saw not this year, but the year before. We will next year be a really strong domestic market. I don't know the answer to any of those questions. All we can do is model and try and get the best consensus of opinion if we can.
And I think that's nice to be brutally honest and transparent, because none of us really have any of the answers, no matter how much technology sort of can give us some transparency there. And just final question, industry's really struggling with talent, with staff shortages. How, as a business that manages quite a large portfolio of properties. How are you handling that? Because I mean, each property obviously has a different brand, has a different persona, has different needs. So how are you trying to attract people to the hospitality industry?
We first of all, we have our own talent resourcing team in work with RBH, and they're constantly out there sifting, advertising, trying to generate our own talent. We have our own internal development schemes for people. So we're working, taking team members to supervision, to managers, and managers to general managers, trying to grow within as best we can. But like everybody, it's really hard to attract, and it's really hard. What we're trying to avoid is an arms race in terms of pay, but in some locations it's unavoidable, and the cost of not having staff is much worse than the cost of what you've got to pay, and that's just the reality. For hundreds of years, the hospitality industry has paid relatively low wages to many industries, and I think that's changing now, and I think we're actually on a par with our competitive industries, and I think that can only be a good thing for us, actually. Although there's short-term pain now, it is leveling out a little bit. It's still tough, but actually we're seeing it plateau a little bit. Most hotels are paying either at least, or probably better than living wage in many locations, and we're ahead of that, whereas before it was always, living wage is coming in March. We're ahead of that curve now, and it's not something that scares us, and we need to continue to do that.